We thank you for joining us this afternoon. We always love a little company. Thank you for sharing your afternoon with us. Kevin Stanfield, Artie Schweitzer, Todd Castleberry are in the house. We're joined by a very special guest. Leeann Tweeden will be joining us. Well, she's in the studio right now.
Hello.
Leeann, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you, John?
I'm hanging in there. We've got a bunch of things going on the show today.
Busy day, Rigo.
We're going to give away that safari trip for two to Ethiopia.
Yes,
not to Ethiopia, to Kenya. Ethiopian Airlines,
right
compliments
on.
of Ethiopian Airlines, and Great Safaris. So
the entries
we got the
are
names
right
in the helmet.
The entries are right here in the burgundy and gold helmet. Quite a turnout, I got to say. I was very impressed by the Rigo faithful. A lot of people want to go on this Kenyan safari.
I guess I'm a day late and $1 short because my name's not in that helmet.
Leeann, as try as you
Darn
may.
it.
You travel too much, Leeann.
I
Otherwise, you
know.
would have seen us on mass, and you probably would have registered at Rigo44.com.
You're right.
Right
now
on.
I know. I'm on it now for next time.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
we're going to be
there'll probably
giving that
another chance.
away at 6:20 today. We got to
6:20.
we got to build the drama here, right,
That's right.
Leeann?
That's right. You
Got
got
to
to build it
create
up to the end of the show, make people listen.
That's right. See, this girl knows.
I
She
know.
knows.
It's just like TV. Yeah.
I don't know, Leeann. With all due respect, Todd's going to shake the helmet every hour or so.
He's already shaken it 3 times before we went on the air.
Right.
Yeah,
There you
I
go.
mean,
See, I got to
that
make sure
really-
it's a fair deal here.
I'm like the announcer last night at the on the red carpet. It makes my heart go pitter pat.
Pitter patter.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
Leeann.
kind of what it
Now,
is.
Leeann, you were at the Bon Jovi concert last night, but Rigo and I were watching the pre-Oscar pre-game show,
Right.
and the gentleman who was describing all the dresses and the men's wear and the ladies wear, he was special. He was
I'm sure he
uniquely
was.
special.
What
He
was it? Archival Valentino.
an
wasn't it?
archival
That was-
Valentino. We learned
yes,
what that was.
that was-
Archival Valentino?
Yeah,
Is
apparently
that like
they
vintage
took it out. Yeah,
Valentino?
it's like they took it out of the museum, dusted it off, and Anne Hathaway was. I think that
Wearing
was her
it,
opening.
Wow.
opening number.
Oh, the white
gown.
with
No,
the
it was
silver?
red. No, she was wearing red. She was on the
Oh,
red
the
carpet. I
red.
don't know.
Oh,
it
got
was.
it.
You wouldn't have missed it.
Oh,
It
you
looked
know
like
what?
it was Valentine's
You're right,
Day.
because actually
Wow.
maybe that's
Valentino.
why that was probably just her red carpet dress.
Yeah. What?
Yeah, she changed like 5 times
Yes.
during the show because
Yeah.
I did TiVo it and we did watch it. So I didn't go to bed till
So
3:30
you
in
watched
the
it? I
morning.
was getting ready to say you
We
watched
watched
after
it
you got
once
home?
we got home.
Well, of
No
course.
kidding.
Yeah, well, it was on after the show. I was lucky enough to be backstage. I've known the guys for a long time in Bon Jovi, but in a room where John was doing sort of a meet and greet, and there was some congressional people in there. I don't even know who was in there, but they told me later. They're like, oh, some congressmen were in there and their families, and they had it on. So I'm trying to like pay attention to John Bon Jovi and kind of catch glimpses of the. I'm like, who was that? Who? What was that? The King's Speech? So it was kind of funny. But,
Was that post concert?
yes, it was
Okay.
post concert. Yeah.
Well, listen, Leeann, you've done about everything there is to do in television and modeling. You certainly were on, what was it, the Best Damn Sports Show? Did
Oh, that was
for years.
fun. Yeah, that's where I met you. Remember,
Yeah.
I met you, both of you.
Yeah,
we
that's
were down
right.
at Super Bowl.
In
and,
Miami.
And it was, it was one of those days where you know how it is. You do radio shows and you're in that big convention center in the room, and sort of, our PR guy was taking me around all these different tables, and I remember seeing your table, and I'm standing there waiting for like another group to be finished with their guests, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, how do I get on John Riggins' show? And I think you walked over to my producer. My producer goes, if you want to do their show instead of that show, I'm fine with that. And I just remember thinking, I can't believe John Riggins is saying my name. It was just so cool because I grew up being a fan of the Redskins. I mean, it really is just kind of a really, it's very cool. I think I'm still getting a little hot under the collar right now thinking about it. Just
So am I.
saying it. But I'm pumped.
You're from Manassas.
I sure am.
Born and bred Manassas.
Born and raised, born in Prince William Hospital. My family's still there. My brother and my dad still live in town. My best friend Brandy's here with me. She still lives right there in Manassas. And you're from Manassas?
Yeah, I am.
We went to rival high schools, though.
We can still get along.
True.
So you would be
It's a
the-
little bit of the Hatfield and McCoys, but
Yeah,
you know, they
Stonewall
got
and
but
Osborne Park.
West
oh,
Side
yeah.
Story, who was it? The Sharks?
Jets and the Sharks.
Jets and the
Exactly.
Sharks. So you the Shark, you the
Exactly.
Jet.
Yeah, we're not
That's
so
right.
tough anymore, though. Let's
Yeah.
have a dance-off.
Stonewall, and we were the Yellow Jackets, although we had a really weak name.
The Raiders.
The Yellow
Yellow
Jackets.
Yeah,
Jackets.
Yellow
I
Jackets.
mean, the
You're gonna
Raiders sounded
sting us
tougher.
right on.
Waterville was the Yellow Jackets. I always thought that was kind of cool because they
Okay.
had
Oh,
they
there you go.
had kind of gold. I remember their
We were
uniform.
blue and gold. We were like navy and
I
gold.
don't remember
It
the
was
blue,
pretty.
but they had the white. I remember their basketball uniforms. They had gold lettering, and then it was outlined in. Maybe it was blue, outlined in blue.
Well, that was ours. Osborne Park was blue and gold.
That's right.
It was
But
pretty
Waterville,
cool.
Kansas, where I'm talking about. And I remember the one guy who shot his free throws, and he had the slick back hair on the side. You got to remember.
How funny.
It was back in the day. And the other thing I
Was there
noticed.
color TV back then?
Actually, Kansas isn't in color. There is no color. No,
Yeah,
I shouldn't
yeah,
say.
one
At least
little-
this time of year, there's no color in
Yeah,
Kansas.
one little curl right here too, didn't he? Yeah,
Basically, that is true. But he taped his socks up. I always thought that was pretty cool. That was the
Oh,
first time I ever saw a guy
revolutionary.
that taped his socks. This was in high school in the early 60s.
Interesting.
Fashion
So-
conscious,
What was
this
that?
gentleman.
Yeah, he was fashion forward.
Interesting. I was going to say, why would you tape them up? I mean, even if they fell, what purpose? I mean, what?
Well,
I
you know,
don't
and
Was
you're
his
onto
shin
something here
sweating?
because there's these cheap cotton socks that we used to wear, and what would happen is that it isn't quite the same as a garter belt,
Right.
but the principle kind of is the same, except that actually hooks and holds. The tape, you sweat and the tape starts to give way. And the
right,
next
it
thing you know,
starts
you just got a
bagging.
strip of tape around your sock is all the way
So
over
what's he
your.
got? The, like fishnet socks?
Over your
Terrible.
shoe, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the fishnet came later, and actually, I introduced him, so I feel very good about that.
Doesn't surprise me.
So you're just going to be with us a short while, I guess. You're flying
Yes.
back to L.A.
I am tomorrow night. I'm going to attend.
You've got a ceremony to attend tomorrow.
Yeah, the Sergeant Major of the Army. I've done 5 USO tours with him right before Christmas time for the last 5 years, and he's retiring. He's actually the longest serving Sergeant Major of the Army. 7 years. That position's usually a 4-year position. It's just like the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs. They turn him around every 3 to 4 years. But when the Obama administration came in and Gates came in, they kept asking him to stay on because he already knew everything that was going on in the Army, and they just sort of wanted stability to continue on through the administration. And now, 2 years into it, they're finally letting him retire. Sergeant Major Ken Preston, and great man, and very honored that I was invited to
I
come
can
to
imagine.
the reception. Yeah.
So
but
what
you
now?
and I have done some USO
Yes,
stuff
yes,
together.
over at Walter Reed.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, I
Walter
saw
Reed
you.
and the USO Metro
Right.
Gala. We did that casino night. That's when I heard
And
your
that's
skill.
I've done that. I think 3 in a row
Yeah,
now.
I missed
think.
the last year, but I do remember that you had that special skill of
the auctioneer.
Have you ever seen anything like
Yes!
that?
But I didn't have to
had
this last
no
time.
I
idea.
didn't either. He busted that move on me about 4 or 5 years ago.
25,
Oh, hang on, honey. I was like,
I'm like,
yeah.
what?
Yes. The man
I'm
is
not quite,
unbelievable.
I'm a little rough.
I was
But if you don't
right.
know any better, it's like I create the illusion.
I was impressed. Right.
I didn't go to auctioneer school, and that's pretty obvious. I'll tell you what, I was really amazed years ago. I was up in New York, and my daughter was going to a school up there, and Dan Aykroyd's daughter happened to go to the same school. So we went down, and I got up, and I did my little auction thing, but I didn't get into it nearly as much as I do now. Then Dan Aykroyd got up, and I was ready to go home. Yeah, because it's
Was
like
he good?
that's like all he did. It sounded like that's what he did for a living.
Well, it sounds
He's
like
a
him
great
and the Blues
actor.
Brothers. The hey, baba, hey, baba.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he did
exactly.
very
Not
good.
far off.
But anyway, yeah, we do share a lot in common with the USO. Now, this is what really is amazing. Leann's been to between Afghanistan and Iraq 13 trips. I think I saw it on your
14
bio.
now.
14 now.
14.
Okay,
16
you got to
USO
update your
tours.
bio.
I know, you're right.
You're down one.
It's 14.
14 trips.
And I'm getting ready to go to Iraq in about a month and a half. We're taking some poker players, and we're going to do some poker tournaments over there. So that's going to be fun. But, it's. I never wore the uniform, and I think growing up in
Same
a
here.
household with my father who served in Vietnam and gave so much for his country, I kind of feel like I've been blessed so much with what I've been able to do with my life, and being on TV, sort of there are hardworking people out there, and everyone that puts on the uniform that serves always signs that blank check. It's always that saying up to and including your life, and I'm sure I've met hundreds of thousands of troops over the years. I've been doing this since 9/11, and I'm sure there are people that I've met that have not come home,
Right.
or have not come home alive. And for the frivolous job that we kind of do, being on the radio, being on TV,
it's
it sort of
frivolous.
seems so. When you talk about their life and they're being in Afghanistan and getting shot at, and not coming home the same or with all their limbs, you kind of think, oh, what can I do to give back? And it's just my small way of doing it. It's just what I do. There's other people that do many other things, but my father always told me, he said, giving your time, there's nothing that when you give your time, you can never get that back. It's not like giving money. It's kind of frivolous. He's like, once you spend your time somewhere, you don't get that part of your life back. And he said that to me is so important. And he says he's so proud of me because of that, But he had Bob Hope and Raquel Welch visit him in Vietnam. And so, not that I'm Raquel Welch, but he still talks about it, and he has the photograph that she signed. And I just thought that was kind of cool,
Well, it is. It's very cool, Leann, and I can appreciate what you're saying, because I remember years ago and it was right at the time during Vietnam where it was all coming to a head. I'm it seems, and I've researched this, and my recollection is in 1971, sometime during that year, that Congress had basically declared the draft illegal, or anyway, it was being phased out. And I was just a rookie. I was just coming out of college, and I'd lost my deferment. And so I was with the Jets, and I was getting ready to look into getting into a National Guard or a reserve unit. And, of course, when this happened, and I had a number that was somewhere like 144, was right in the middle where you didn't know what the draft number when it went to a lottery for a few years there.
Yep. So
it never did come about, and so I never ended up serving. But it was something I never forgot, and it was always something I've never felt whole about, and it will always be that way until the day I die, when I am around or I'm in the company of the folks that you just mentioned, the ones that stand in harm's way so that we can do everything that we do in our great country. So at that point in time, I realized, and it always hit me every Sunday afternoon, particularly when we would play a game, and you'd stand there and you'd sing the national anthem. And I always did, and I always took my helm off and put my hand over my heart, what I recall. And I always thought of the soldiers, the men and the women that were in Vietnam, and basically in a way in my place, and I was allowed to do this. So I'm like you in that regard.
Just
I've never forgotten it. And it is exactly what you say, when it's not like when you give your time. It's not like giving money or something of a material, because really when it takes a little while to get there, and I'm getting to that point in my life where you realize time is the most precious thing we have.
Absolutely.
So it is, we certainly do, appreciate everybody, I think, and the great thing about it too, and I think you found this, is how unassuming, almost to a man and a woman, that the troops are, and how little they expect. And I do think down deep that they do appreciate it, but it's certainly nothing. They never ask for anything. And I tell you what, if you want to, it's very difficult to go over to Walter Reed and see the sacrifices that have been made by the men and women over there, and yet the attitudes they have is just overwhelming.
It really is incredible. There's this one kid that I was 2 Thanksgivings ago, I was with Gary Sinise. He'd asked me to go over for Thanksgiving. He was playing with his Lieutenant Dan band, and on our way back, we stopped in Germany at Landstuhl. And, usually out of Iraq and Afghanistan, they come back. That's where they go, get stabilized, and then come back to the United States, whether it's Walter Reed or in San Antonio, Texas. And we met a kid, Brendan Morocco, who lost all 4 of his limbs. 3 of them above the joint, and the left arm, I believe, just below the joint. Nobody had ever survived losing 4 limbs ever in a war, ever, because of the great medical advancements we have. In that position, how would you feel? I mean, I try to put myself in this kid's position. I'm thinking, my goodness, in Vietnam, the kid would have died.
Yeah.
Probably maybe 8 years ago in this war, he might have died. But they get to you within less than 10 minutes on the battlefield. They get to you, they can stabilize you. The level of training now that they teach, not just the medics in your group, they almost teach everybody in your little unit better, life-saving capabilities. And, it's just kind of, I look at this kid who's about 22 years old. He's from Staten Island, New York, and he has no limbs. And his attitude when I would see him, because, there's always the apprehension. I saw him in Landstuhl. He was knocked out. I saw his parents. He had just, it was like the day before that he had been brought in.
So he'd been there for only 24 hours or less.
Right. So I saw his parents, and they were just distraught and everything. Of course, we weren't sure if he was even going to make it back on the plane ride to the United States. Yeah. Now I've seen him over and over, and his brother has quit his job and come down, and he's at the Fisher House or one of those places, and his attitude is just unbelievable.
I know.
I mean, the kid's like, he's in line to maybe get the double arm transplant now. He's getting his legs. He's, all of these things that I don't know how I would feel if I was laying in bed. I'd probably want to die. I'd probably be like, it's not even worth it. I don't want to do anything. And here's this kid who's got this great attitude. And I think that attitude is really kind of letting him live life and sort of get over it. When, I think I'm having a bad day, it's raining out, my hair flat, and I spent all this time curling, doing my makeup. And then I'm like, oh, okay, well, my life isn't that bad. You kind of step back and realize so many things in life are pretty darn good, when you kind of see what they have to go through, but their attitude is so incredible. And all of them. I mean, I've met men and women who've been injured, and it's just, they just either want to get back in the fight with their troops.
Right, that's
that's the first thing they say. Yeah. I want to get better, and I want to get back to my troops in Afghanistan.
And so many times it seems, Leann, that they feel like they're not doing that. All of a sudden, they're holding everybody back. That they're letting their people in their troop down because they're not there with them.
Isn't that unbelievable?
I know, and that's the part when you walk out of there, you get a little lump in your throat.
Absolutely,
and
we're trying. We went in together, and it's like you try to say, you want to be stoic and kind of stay
Yeah.
tough and be like, that's great, yes, you're going to get back to your unit. Most of them never do, but you kind of play along
you
with
embrace
them, and
it with them. Of course you do.
you support them, and then you walk out, and you're right. You kind of the door shuts, and you take a deep breath, and okay, all right, who's next? And you get the bio on the next room you're going to visit and stuff. But it's definitely difficult. And the one thing that a lot of people didn't know about me now is that I married a man in the Air Force, and he's deployed 7 or 8 times since 9/11, and I've probably deployed him 5 times, and I just want to tell family members, thank you. Thank you for supporting your husbands and wives, sisters, brothers, cousins, friends, because I know what it's like I always tell people I sleep in bed with my laptop and I have it open. And so I hear that you've got mail chime, because I always tell them, I'm like, please, whatever you do, I know you're tired, but when you come back from a mission, just email me. You can just be like, I'm back. You can go to bed, and then get me tomorrow when you wake up or whatever after you had a good night's sleep. And there's nothing like the stress of that when they're constantly deployed for that 4 months or however long it is that he goes for. It's there's nothing like it. There is no. I mean, I'm sure playing in the Super Bowl was really stressful and things like that, but like that constant stress of like thinking that he
It's
might
all relative, and
you know what I mean. That stress of like leading up to it, but like the stress that you're really probably not going to die playing in the Super Bowl, and that's what always scares me, is that when my husband's there, is that he might die. I mean, granted, the Air Force, what he's doing and dropping off troops and things and landing wherever he's going is still dangerous, but it's not as dangerous as like the soldiers or the Marines that are in the trenches. And he always says that too. My husband's like, my job is easy compared to those guys. I will do whatever it takes to get them out of where they need to go, or to get them the supplies they need. So he even realizes it on his end. But in the end, he's still my hero too.
And you said you're going to take some of the people from your which poker, because you do 2 of them, Poker After Dark.
Right, Poker After Dark is our 6-night-week late night show on NBC, and then every year we have a special, the National Heads Up Poker Championship, which is our NCAA bracket style
64 guys
single elimination tournament.
Right.
Exactly, and about a quarter of them to half of them are celebrities, and the rest are celebrity poker players. And we're getting ready to film that next week. I go to Vegas, or actually this week. It's already Monday. On Wednesday afternoon, I go. We have a production meeting, and then all weekend we film at Caesar's Palace, and that's going to be airing from April to May, and it's a lot of fun, and it's a lot of those guys support our troops too, and we're taking a few of those guys with us when we go in May to thank the troops and play poker. I mean, it's unbelievable. When I would go over there at that damn sports show, we love sports, we love football, and they'd all wear their jerseys, no matter what team it was, what sport it was.
During the fall.
It's. I mean, Michael Irvin used to be on our show, and the guys would wear their Cowboys jerseys, and I'm a Redskin fan, so I'd be like,
still,
whatever.
we want to talk to you about that.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, why don't we take a little break here, Leann? You're going to sit in with us for the first hour here.
Yes, she
Thank
is.
you.
Sure.
Yes, a big
Leeann
day here on the
Tweeden.
John Riggins Show. Lots going on. We're going to give away the Kenyan Safari for 2. Leann's going to sit in with us, talk a little burgundy and gold. She still thinks she's going to win. Nice
Don't
try,
stick my name in there
Leann.
when you're not looking.
More of the John Riggins Show after this brief timeout.